Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good morning to all students. I hope that all of you are doing well and staying safe. Today is going to be the last lecture of chapter number 1. In this chapter, up till now, we have studied how to represent text and numbers in a binary, how computers store sound, how computers store images. We learned about different coding schemes like ASCII and Unicode. We went through about binary arithmetics, how computer actually do addition, subtraction, how binary coded decimal are used in addition and electronic devices like calculators and displays, how ones and twos complements are helpful in representation of negative numbers in computers. I'm sure in the previous videos you have gone through all of them, and I'm also hoping that you solve the respective worksheets of every video lecture, and do email me at my email address with your name and the date of the worksheet, please. Today's topic is compression techniques. As you know that we do compression to save our storage space, and since the smaller files are always easier to transfer, send over the internet, that's why we always tend to compress the files. We take the pictures, for example, in high definition, but when we send them on the messenger utilities, those messengers, internet messengers, actually tend to compress the pictures themselves. So the picture actually gets reduced in size, becomes easier to upload, and when it reaches the receiving end, it becomes easier to download. So it consumes less of your data package, less amount of your bandwidth, and when you are actually storing it, it consumes less of your storage space. The general concepts of compression is that to compress the file, first of all, we find redundancies in our data. By redundancy, I mean repetition. The elements that are repeated in the data are find out, and after finding them out, we actually replace them with some code. For example, if you think about the alphabet E, mostly in all the English words and sentences, it occurs quite often. Now, what if you replace the E with a simple binary code and you substitute that? So the amount of space it is occupying will be reduced. So after finding the redundancies, we eliminate those redundant elements, we substitute them with some code, and based on that code, receiver can reconstruct the original data. For example, if I'm telling you that I'm replacing 01 for S, so when you receive the 01, you can convert it back to the S character. That's how the receiver actually reconstruct the data. Then you have the categories of compression. These are the same concept that you have gone through in O levels as well, lossless compression and lossy compression. The lossless compression technique is when the file is compressed and decompressed without losing any content of the file. Means we are compressing the file, but when we are decompressing it, making it, restoring it back into its original form, we are having the exact file back without any loss of data. Today we are going to see two different techniques of doing that as well. Then there we have lossy compression technique as well. In lossy compression techniques, when the data is compressed, the actual original content, some part of that file is lost, which can never be recovered. Once you have taken the picture in raw bitmap, and then you compress it using the JPEG format, making it a JPG, you are actually compressing the file using a lossy compression algorithm. You can never get the actual bitmap back. Same goes for the sound. You're recording a sound file and then you compress it using the MP3 compression format. Everything that the MP3 format has stripped away, we cannot actually get that part of content back. So a lossy compression is something that actually compress the file, but then we cannot actually get the original file back. We cannot restore it. Then we have run length encoding. With the run length encoding, we can compress any type of repeating data sequence. I'm going to show you with the help of an example that we actually store the running count of the repetitive pixels or characters or whatever data file we have. At the sender side, we actually identify the repeating character to replace, and if we found any repeating characters, we replace them by 3-character code. 3-character code because 2 characters are showing the count and the third character is showing the actual character for which we are doing the count. But the efficiency of run length encoding actually depends upon how many repetition of characters we have. Because if characters are not successively repeating themselves, run length coding becomes a bit ineffective. So let me just show you an example of how a digital line can be replaced by a numeric count. Consider this picture. This is a part of your screen where some pixels are white and some pixels are black, and the black pixel are making an image which you can read. To you it's 9. For computer that's just a succession of pixels of white and black. Computer does not actually understand the images like we do. Computer just stores them as a collection of pixels. Now it's a grid of 10 by 10 pixels, so that actually means it have 100 pixels in it. And since one of the pixel can only have only 2 colors, either a 1 or a 0, so you can say that each pixel is occupying only 1 bit. We have discussed this concept in the color depth in the images video. So the bit depth of so color depth of each pixel is 1 bit. So the 100 pixels are represented in 100 bits. If I actually show you the situation of pixels, so all the white ones are actually set to 0 and all the black ones are set to 1. And those black ones are actually making the shape. This is the uncompressed bitmap format that we have. Now let's put run length encoding into action here. What we can do is we can actually count the number of occurrences of repeated characters. You can see that zeros and ones are actually being repeated. Whenever we are actually storing an image, the pixels tend to repeat themselves. There are a lot of pixels of same colors to make a shape or make the curvature and the lines of the shape, define the shape for us. So in this scenario, we have zeros and ones repeating themselves. So in the first row, I can simply write that there are 10 white pixels. I don't have to actually store 10 pixels, but I can simply write there are 10 white pixels. Then in the next row, I can also store that there are 10 white pixels, and that's it. In my third row, what I can do is I can actually store the succession of pixels that I was talking about in the earlier slide. That first of all, I have 3 whites, then I have 4 blacks, and then I have 3 whites again. The pixels that are being repeated successively, continuously, without any break, they are actually counted together and written together. Then in the row 4, you can see that I have 3 pixels of white, 1 pixel of black, 2 pixels of white, then 1 pixel of black, and then again 3 pixels of white. This is your row 4. I'm sure you are able to connect the rows together. Then in the row 5, you have again 3 pixels of white, 4 pixels of black, and 3 pixels of white. So you are actually getting the running count the running total of repetitive pixels. This is how run length encoding works. In the row 6, you have 6 whites, 1 black, and 3 whites. And the same thing is happening in row 7. And in the row 8 is again 3 whites, 4 blacks, and 3 whites. And the row 9 and 10 again have 10 white pixels. So if you just focus on row 1 right now, you can see that rather than actually storing it in 10 bits, we are actually able to store it in 3 or 4 bits. 1 pixel and then the count of that pixel. There are several ways. One way, like row wise, is one method that I have showed you. Our syllabus and book is focusing on this row wise method of having the run length encoding representation. In the image down below, I have actually showed you another way of writing the run length encoding, which is actually starting from the start of the pixel and until the first one comes, it is counting all the white pixels. So it actually counts that there are 23 white pixels and then 4 black pixels. And then again 6 white pixels and 1 black pixel. Means the diagram I have showed you at the end, it is not actually counting row wise, but it is continuously counting the occurrence of repetitive pixels. There are several methods how to actually divide those pixels, how to actually separate the pixels, like I have showed you row wise or continuous counting. We don't actually need to go into the byte wise counting of the run length encoding. We just, at this point, we just need to understand how a running count and storing the pixel in this format can decrease the amount of bits that we require. Now, looking at this data from row 1 to row 10, we can very easily reconstruct the image back. We can just keep constructing the white and black pixel according to the running count and the place that we have actually counted them on, and we will get our image back. And you can see that if you count the bits of these rows, you are actually using less than half of the bits which were used in the original image. As I told you, the efficiency depends upon how many repetitive occurrences are there. For example, if I had 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, so there would be 1 white, 1 black, 1 white, 1 black. So there would not be any point of doing the run length encoding, because the running count will have occupied the same or even more data bits than the actual file. So run length encoding is effective where there is repetitive bits or repetitive parts of data are continuously occurring. Now, let's talk about another coding method called Huffman encoding. As you have seen that in run length encoding, we were able to construct the data back without losing any content of the data. So that means run length encoding was a lossless coding format. Now Huffman encoding is again lossless coding format. And there is one more thing that we actually use when we are practically compressing the file. We are using multiple techniques at a time to get the best result. These are just two of the techniques that we are discussing. In Huffman encoding, the benefits are that it reduces the size of the data, means amount of bits that are required to represent the data, and that actually in turn reduce the amount of storage that we require. If we have smaller file, the transmission cost is also reduced, the latency would be low, the bandwidth will be less consumed, and Huffman is also lossless encoding. Now, how we actually do the Huffman encoding? The approach is that we give variable length of encoding of symbol. This line actually means, if you remember the ASCII coding scheme for 7-bit ASCII, in which we had capital and small ABC English alphabets and 0 to 9 digits and some special character. In that, we observed that every character is having 8 bits to store that character. Means the length to represent every character was fixed. But in the Huffman encoding, the length of every symbol is going to be different, and it is going to be based upon how many times this character is appearing in our text. The more times the character appears, the smaller length of code we are going to give it. So we are going to see what is the statistical frequency of symbol. You know that frequency here is number of appearances of a symbol in the text. And Huffman encoding is very efficient when probability of the occurrence of a symbol is wide. The rule is that if a symbol is appearing more, use fewer bits to represent it. And if a symbol is appearing less, use more bits to represent it. Let me try and show you that with an example. In this diagram, you can see that A is occurring 3 times and B is occurring only once. What I'm going to do is I'm going to construct a dictionary of this file of my own. I already know that A is 65 and B is 66 in ASCII. That part is there already. But before that, we are going to construct a dictionary of our own in which I'm going to allocate 0 to A and maybe 0, 1 to B. Now, these 4 characters are currently occupying 32 bits according to the ASCII. Each character have 1 byte allocated to it. So the 4 characters have 32 bits allocated to them, which means that 4 bytes are being consumed here. But when I put it through the Huffman encoding, A has more occurrence. So I'm going to give 0 to A and 0, 1 to B. So I have 3 zeros and 1 pair of 0, 1, which means I can represent this in only 5 bits. I can just create a dictionary back in the file which actually links 0 to A and 0, 1 to B, and then from there the ASCII coding table can be used, but Huffman encoding can actually reduce the amount of bits required to represent this character. Look at this table as well. I'm going with a hypothetical example where I'm only using 3 symbols A, B, C, and D, and I'm assuming that C has the occurrence of 50%. Whatever text I have written using these 4 characters, in that text I have 50% C's, 25% B's, 13% A's, and 12% D's. This is the frequency. If I have written 100 characters, 50 of them are C, 12 of them are D, 13 of them are A, and 25 of them are B. So I have the occurrence of characters here as well. Now, in the original encoding, it would be, if I'm ignoring the ASCII code, in the original encoding, I only require 4 bits to represent these 4 characters. So A can be 0, 0, B can be 0, 1, C can be 1, 0, and D can be 1, 1. You see that in the original coding, the length is fixed. Means every character is represented in 2 bits. So if every character is represented in 2 bits, 100 of these characters are requiring at least 200 bits to be stored. In the Huffman encoding, I'm going to find out which character is appearing most, and I'm going to give it a smallest code. C is 50% C, so 0 is C. So now I'm representing C with the 50 zeros. So the amount of bits required to represent C, which was previously 100, have now been reduced to C, 0. Then the second one have a slightly bigger code, which is 1, 0. And the third one have even bigger code, which is 1, 1, 0 and triple 1. But since I only have 11 Ds, So only 33 bits are going to be consumed here. 13 A's means only 39 bits are going to be consumed here, which means 62 bits are representing A and D now. And since I have 25 B's and I'm representing the B with 1 0, I have 50 bits representing my B. That means my count is now 102 bits. And since there is only single 0 which is representing C, I need only 50 bits for C. So I have now compressed my data to 152 bits using the Huffman encoding. So if I was getting 2 bits per symbol, now I'm getting 1.75 bits per symbol. Again, let me sum up the rules of Huffman encoding for you, that you find out which character is appearing most in the text. Then you make your own dictionary, your own table, and you allocate a smallest code to that character. Now that character is being represented with the smallest code, means it is occupying least amount of space. And then you find out the character which is occurring least often in the text, like this G is occurring only 11 times in the text, 12% in the text. So that is given the bigger code, 111. And now D is occupying more space, but since it only occurs 12%, that space is actually conserved. This is the end of the presentation and the lecture for today. I'm looking forward to actually have your questions, and also again there will be a worksheet which I actually want you to solve and email me as soon as you are done with it. If you have any question answers, uh, please join the question answer session following this meeting. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.